All right, boys and girls, today we're going to start section 5.2, and section 5.2 is very similar to what we just learned in section 5.1, okay? There's a lot of verifying of trig identities. As a matter of fact, the first example that we're going to do is we're going to verify the identity, okay? So you still have to use all those properties that are on page 350. So again, if you have them on an index card, the more you practice them, the sooner you'll memorize a lot of those, okay? Now, just kind of a quick note. For this example, when they ask you to verify the identity, you're pretty much going to simplify this and make sure that this side matches the right-hand side, okay? So we're going to simplify it as much as we can and to get this. And just so you know, there is more than one way to get the same answer, okay? So you could choose different methods, or you can go about it different ways, okay? So there's not just one way. Okay, so let's get started. So here we have cosecant squared theta minus cotangent squared theta over tangent squared theta times cosecant squared theta. And we have to make this equal cosecant squared theta, okay? So the first thing that I look at and I can simplify is the top, okay? The top is a trig identity, and pretty much it's a Pythagorean identity. So cosecant squared theta minus cotangent squared theta will give me 1. So I'm going to simplify that, okay? So here we go. So I'm going to end up with 1 over tangent square theta times cosecant square theta. Okay. And again, you have to know your properties. So make sure you have your index card or the textbook on page 350 so you can see what I'm doing. Okay. Again, this simplifies to 1, and you can look on page 350 for your trig identities. Okay. Okay, and then the other thing that I can simplify would be 1 over tangent square. Oops, I didn't include the theta, sorry. 1 over tangent square theta. Pretty much I can rewrite that as cotangent, okay? Because it's the reciprocal. So I'm going to rewrite this, and I think I'm going to do it over here, okay? So 1 over tangent square theta will give me cotangent square theta over cosecant square theta, okay? So we're getting close. Obviously we have to simplify it to cosine square theta. So the next thing that I can think of is cotangent is the same as cosine over sine. So I'm going to rewrite that. And it's a square, so ready? And I'm going to rewrite it over here, okay? So cosine square theta over sine square theta. And that's my cotangent. But then at the same time, cosecant, I can rewrite it because this is like 1 over cosecant, and 1 over cosecant is the same as sine, okay? And because it's a reciprocal, I'm sorry, not a reciprocal, it's a square, it'll be sine squared theta. So basically this is what I'll have as my numerator, okay? This is my numerator, and this, since it's in the bottom, it's going to be well, I shouldn't have it as a division anymore. Because it's 1 over cosecant should now be times sine square theta. Okay? And then here, if you notice, the sine squares will cancel out. And then what you should have left is cosine squared theta. Okay? So we use a lot of properties. Okay? So just to kind of go over it again in case you have questions. Cosecant squared theta minus cotangent squared theta, that should just equal 1. That's a property. And so now I have 1 on top, and in the bottom I should have tangent squared theta and cosecant squared theta. But I rewrote 1 over tangent squared theta as cotangent squared theta, okay, over cosecant. I just brought that over. Cotangent, I could rewrite it as cosine over sine, but because it's squared, then cosine should be square and sine should be square, okay? And this is like 1 over cosecant. 1 over cosecant is the reciprocal of sine, so I should just multiply by sine squared, okay? Not divide anymore because that's the reciprocal. So now I should, the sine squares will cancel out, and I'm just left with cosine squared theta, okay? Could you do it another way? Absolutely, okay? But this was my way, because again, there's more than one way. Depends on what identity you want to use, okay? All right, since this is kind of a continuation from section 5.1, this is the only example that I'm going to do, and now I'm going to give you guys one to try, okay?